Hi, everyone. As introduced, my name is Ott Velsberg, and I've been serving as the Government Chief Data Officer for the last 5 years. I still remember my first day at the office. It was about artificial intelligence. What should we do in Estonian government regarding AI? Back then, we also mapped out people's perspectives, opinions about what is the future going to look like. And back then, it was truly another story. Only 1/3 of people actually considered that AI is going to be implemented as part of their work. Today, that number is changed completely. AI itself has been something that people continue to discuss and talk about. But when we look at the government itself and the overarching kind of objective, then in the end, it is about supporting people's lives, supporting our companies, ensuring that we can all live in a society that is supportive and constructive. So AI itself for us is a tool to achieve the larger objectives. But at the same time, we want to change the way we think about the government itself as well. And one way we do that is through the idea of a proactive government. So what is the proactive government really about? It is about proactively supporting citizens, supporting companies when they actually need that. Last year, I had a child. And the whole process itself, from already pre-naming, already knowing what type of subsidies, benefits the government is going to provide, is one way to ensure that when that special moment arrives, you don't need to work with all the bureaucracy that typically is there. When many of the different initiatives towards proactive government don't require any AI, some of them actually do. So for instance, in the unemployment, we already know today who are the people that are more likely to become long-term unemployed, how to provide recommendations to people to improve their chances of returning back to the workforce, how to actually support their education, upskilling, reskilling. So AI in many of those aspects plays a critical role. Our vision for 2030 is that Estonia is full of digital power, that we built this government, this society together with private sector, universities, and also, we are open and transparent while doing that. Part of the principles that we follow is that in upcoming years, we are able to interact in Estonian. So you heard in English. Today, I'm speaking in English as well. But as part of our Estonia 2035 strategy, we see that we still need to be able to interact via different services in Estonian. Unfortunately, AI plays a key role here. And from a government perspective, we need to invest in Estonian language because we have not seen that the larger companies are willing to make investments in Estonian language itself. Unfortunately, our market is just so small. So the government plays a key critical role in doing that. Similarly, ensuring that we are trustworthy. When we talk about AI within the government, we are utilizing more and more data. In some circumstances, even if we know that, for instance, social indicators or social background plays a critical role in understanding which homes are more likely to become fire hazardous, then we are unable to utilize the data due to the data minimization principle. So in the law, in Estonian regulation, you need to stipulate how and for what reasons you collect data and how you actually process that. So keeping this transparent. And later going to talk about how we actually do that from a practical perspective as well. But going more forward with the objectives. When you look at the leaps, then one of the most important part is that the government should be AI powered. What does it mean that the government is AI powered? By 2030, I see that every citizen, every company should be able to interact with the government using virtual assistant. Every major decision is assisted by data analytics. So our government should be AI powered. And similarly, every decision should be based on data. We are working right now with the government office towards data-driven decision making. So these are one of the foundational parts for the government. But let's go to the practical side. Krait. I remember in 2019, we did an omnibus survey among Estonians and asked, what do you think if we use Krait? And for the international folks, Krait is a mythological creature built from hay and stitches, as you can see. And it was typically carried out different tasks. But you always had to be a little bit cautious because Krait could actually turn against you. So we are bringing in the same parallel when talking about artificial intelligence. So if you look at our Estonian AI strategy, it is actually called Kraitikava, Action Plan for Kraits. When we more specifically talk about the AI, we are bringing in the technological side as well. Machine learning, deep learning, and so on. When you look at the international definition, it is oftentimes about automation. But simple automation, then we have already been working on AI for the last 30 years. And there is nothing new about it. It is rather about those circumstances where you haven't defined the rules, how the system operates. So we are really insisting on an international stage as well that we need to have a technological perspective into the definition of AI. So if you go look at OECD or European Union, oftentimes the definition is quite broad, in my opinion, and it doesn't help towards the discussions that we have right now. Why is data and AI important? Within the last couple of years, it is expected that it was predicted that in the upcoming years we are going to lose roughly 500 million jobs. And this is in the Western world, because when you go to Africa and so on, their digitalization rate is still extremely low. Similarly, when you look at European Union data economy, it is expected to be roughly 829 billion by 2025. Estonia today has the highest data economy in Europe, 10.5% of GDP. When we look at globally, we are the second, only behind United States. So data itself has tremendous potential into changing how we are operating, our economy's potential, and so on. But let's dive deeper into what we are doing within the government. A typical way that we go around decision making is that we have a problem, we see if we have the necessary data, we involve data analytics, and finally we hope that the decision makers, oftentimes the upper management and so on, actually do something with the input. Why I say we hope, oftentimes I see that we don't do anything with the analytical output. So we need to also change within the different organizational hierarchies and the way we operate, that we really try to base our decisions on data rather than gut feeling. One of the objectives for the government office is to have a real-time assistive system. So if our prime minister or any person in the upper management has any questions, they can just ask, receive an answer, and hopefully they will make the right decision. So that's where we try to go to. But let's talk about the strategy part. I mentioned that in 2018, we started to work on artificial intelligence. Back then, the discussion really was about where should Estonia invest? What are our opportunities? Should we rely on public sector, private sector, and so on? Based on the report that we did, we came out with AI strategy that focused on 4 pillars: public sector, private sector, education, R&D, and legal system. Regarding legislation, back then we had discussions whether AI should have a legal entity status. So AI would be responsible for itself. Thank God, it didn't go through. The legal experts consider it doesn't have any benefits. It only will create questions about who is responsible. We had to have a huge insurance scheme, and Estonian, with its huge market, wouldn't attract such companies, never, basically. When we look at the current AI strategy, then we have an additional pillar, data as an enabler. And this is a horizontal. So when you think about public sector and private sector, these are verticals, then data as an enabler affects everyone. We mostly talk about open data, privacy-enhancing technologies, data governance, and so on. So what are the foundational parts? Early on, our objective wasn't actually as kind of fantasizing as AI-powered government. It was about building base capacity. In 2018, Estonian government itself had 4 AI use cases. And from those 4, 2, I would argue, were not AI that we consider today. But still, we only had some experience. So it was about building base capacity. Let's test out what we actually need to do regarding regulation, support, and so on. So it was about piloting. We carried out many proof of concepts and so on. And one of the problems I see internationally is that we try to regulate before actually having any experience at all. Similarly to GPT or generative AI. When it came out, it took weeks, and already there was discussions that we should ban, we should regulate, and so on. There was little testing, experimenting. Oftentimes, from a policy perspective, people who regulate and say that it will only create negative outcomes don't have any experience themselves at all. What was interesting, we saw that we didn't need to plan any specific measures to support people who are today employed. So we don't see a risk today that AI is going to replace jobs. Rather, we are able to automate many routine tasks. Just to give you an example, already in 2018, we were working with the National Library to automate providing keywords to books. So everyone knows there are keywords, so you can better find the book you are looking for. There were roughly 20 people back then who did that job. And I always joked, because I was jealous, that this is my dream job. People get paid for reading a book, adding 4 to 5 keywords, and I was like, this is my dream job. I'm going to Ibiza, I'm just going to read my book, I'm going to Thailand, this is my dream job. But actually those people understood as well that depending on a person's preferences, some like some type of books, others, their quality of keywords, how they provide in descriptions really differed. So how we can automate that, improve the quality. And the specialist itself contributed to automating that job because they understood they can then concentrate on more meaningful tasks. What are the things we do from an AI-powered government perspective? One perspective is different centralized components that we provide both to the public sector and private sector. These are oftentimes what we call natural language processing solutions. We do those solutions or develop those solutions together with universities, private sector, some in-house as well. Competencies, both within the government, but also among wider population. For instance, this year, we are educating 130 people on data analytics and data science. So people who are already employed, upskilling those people so they can shift to another profession. Within the government, we educate each year 1,000 people when it comes to data analytics and data management. So upskilling, supporting, play a key role. I'm just going to quickly cover some of the things. When you combine open data with machine learning, you can oftentimes solve problems in a community-driven way. I'm later going to give you some of the examples as well, but Gaggle, those who have data analytics, data science background, I would really recommend, and participate as well. Kaggle is one of the environments whereby governments, but also private sector, publishes their data, their business needs, and together, in a collaborative manner, you solve them. We have different working groups, whereby we introduce every 1.5 months different public sector solutions, and all of those are actually available in YouTube as well, so you can see what is happening. Each year we have larger events. Next week we are going to have Open Data Forum. Every year in February we have Krati Treff. It's an annual event. This year we had close to 600 participants. So talking about from the idea to development, experiences from private sector and public sector alike. Expert support. Roughly half of all Estonian government solutions, and we today have over 120, have been through the support that we give. We help in terms of ideation, validation, also funding, and so on. So everything that the business side requires. When I look back to 2018, people really didn't know what is AI at all. Then we had roughly 2 years where the expectations and reality started to align. Now, it is, again, people's expectations, they are extremely high. But the problem itself that I see is that most of the the basic way that we think about is generative AI in terms of text. And this is a huge problem. So I'm going to show you some of the examples as well. If we only think about where we can implement generative AI, we are limiting ourselves. And this is already happening when it comes to research as well. The most prominent research for the last year has been about generative AI. Video object recognition and so on isn't one of the trending researches. What has happened? So it is a popular thing that we discuss, so we only focus on a couple of things. These are just some of the reusable solutions that we have developed. Bureaucrat is our open source platform for government virtual assistant. Customer contact classifier. This is something that we plan to implement across the government. So you citizens don't need to know which government agency and person is actually responsible for your questions. Machine translation. What we are working on with Tartu University is grammar corrector and speller. In English, you have Grammarly. For Estonian, you have nothing. Even the speller sucks. So we need to invest ourselves and actually develop such tools. And to improve transparency, we have data tracker. Today we have 13 agencies that have implemented. So from a government portal, you can see which agencies and for what reason have processed your data. And next year we are going to plan to make it mandatory. So every information system needs to have a data tracker implemented. And similarly, consent service, giving citizens actually a possibility to decide themselves who are the stakeholders that can actually process their personal data. When talking about the statistics, data tracker has been used this year by roughly 400,000 people, and consent service over 350,000 people. So there's a huge interest into actually taking an ownership over your data. And this is one of the examples, drinking water quality prediction. So we launched a campaign and different participants helped to find a model to predict water quality and automate the process. And these are our current statistics. Over 120 use cases in the government, over 40 different reusable components. So open development and open source are one of the key principles that we follow. And these are just some of the examples. I mentioned the training internship, residential buildings. Here we have a problem that we are unable to access the data that really contributes to the prediction quality. Remote sensing is something that we have had extremely a lot of experience. The height of the trees, whether farmlands have been mowed, and so on. But what is common across the different solutions is that we have tried to keep it simple oftentimes. And I remember still my university professor, while I was doing my PhD, always told me, keep it simple, stupid. So I tried to take that and implement it in the government as well. Most of the projects that we have carried out are small-scale projects, automating simple tasks. Oftentimes, the projects run for roughly 4 to 6 months. So what are the things we have learned so far, and I would recommend taking with you? Ensure custom and problem focus. Oftentimes I see that we try to use AI and push it towards some processes, but ensure customer and problem focus. Talk with the business side. We changed our directive as well. First we worked with the IT, then we shifted towards the business side. What are your problems? Start by mapping out what are the problems and if AI can actually help and solve them. Data quality and accessibility. Data governance is not a sexy topic. It is never on top of the agenda for upper management. But spin it with AI, this is something that they are willing to invest in. Practical cooperation. Most of the things that we have done in collaboration with universities and private sector. Similarly, international cooperation, reuse. So I think today it is really great to see that we have both private sector, academia, public sector, and people of all sorts. So use this moment to really discuss and share your experiences as well. And together we can really build an AI-powered government. Let's put AI to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ott. We've received a few questions from Slido. One of the questions is a question from Future Utopia, which is nice, of course. What if AI solves all our problems? What will we do then? Are you worried about that?
All problems?
Yeah, all of our problems, yeah. Someone's worried about that in the audience.
To be honest, if AI solves all of the problems, I think it's a human nature that we will find new problems to obsess about. I think the major problem then will be, what is the next problem?
Should the state, I know you said that AI won't take away many jobs, but still someone in the audience wants to ask, should the state prepare for this possible future scenario where AI will still take away some jobs and we'll have a rise of unemployment?
So just to give you an example, although the economy itself in Estonia is slowing down, then our unemployment rate has been extremely low for a long time. And today still, it is sometimes extremely difficult to find people. What I see that the government should do when we think about that the society itself is becoming more data-driven is introduce, for instance, data literacy as part of the primary and secondary education. A more stronger focus should be on up and reskilling, but this also involves that people need to understand that their job, a typical, I'm going to work on this job for 40 years, is changing. So it is going to be more and more about gig economy and so on. So I think we need to realize that we need to kind of work on our educational skills all the time as well.
Another question just arrived. Is there a future of data-driven government with no human decision maker necessary? I mean, and what are the limitations to make it real?
So the short answer is I don't see that any government is going to have a completely automated government process itself. And similar in Estonia, major decisions have to be made by a person. So you can have a assistive system. And if you look at the EU AI Act, so this is an artificial intelligence regulation that the European Commission is working on, they are banning many different use cases and categories. So even the idea that you are going to implement AI in border control and so on is unfortunately going to be impossible. In some circumstances, I understand the risk. In others, I'm not sure what we are actually trying to achieve.
And how can Estonian e-governance know-how be used in other countries and other governments? What are your cooperation platforms or ways of sharing this knowledge?
So first of all, Estonia is a small country, but at the same time, let's take OECD or European Commission. They are oftentimes looking towards us because we have the practical experience of doing. And really this same collaboration that I mentioned with private sector, we need to have it on an international scale as well. We are today working with various countries on what they have implemented and taking them over in Estonia, similarly sharing our experiences as well. So for instance, when it comes to transparency, we are right now working with the United Kingdom. Last year, they came out with algorithmic transparency standards, so we are adapting that. At the same time, we are working with City of Amsterdam on implementing one of the crowdsourcing solutions. So it is really about sharing our experiences, the practical experience that we have, but also sharing what we have done. Because in the end, if we want to use our resources, and oftentimes we are using EU resources, we need to be transparent and open and share among everyone.
Thank you very much, Ott. Ladies and gentlemen, we have more questions from you, of course, but I cannot, unfortunately, take all of them. Otherwise, we will spend the whole day with Ott here on the stage, and other participants would have to go home without actually being able to step here. So a great applause to Ott. Thank you very much.
Thank you.